Is justice when each one gives according to his ability and each one gets according to his needs? Let's consider. Hello, philosophers. I'm Chico. Welcome to the Philosopher Show, where we consider the greatest questions of human history. We've been looking at justice in this playlist, and today we're going to look at Karl Marx's view, which is interesting. There's an interesting problem here because when we talk about justice, Marx sort of studiously avoids any mention of justice. You know, when he talks about capitalism, for example, he uses very value-laden terms like exploitation when he talks about capitalism, but he avoids making any kind of moral judgment on it, and he avoids calling it a just or an unjust society. When he talks about communism, he doesn't call it just versus unjust. So what are we to make of it? What is his just? Is communism a just society? Is capitalism unjust? Well, let's look a little bit into his philosophy and see what we can find. First, let's look at his materialist method. So it's important to know that humans, for Marx, are primarily producers. We are fundamentally, essentially producers, I should say. We have to produce in order to meet our own physical needs. And in satisfying those needs, we actually generate more material needs and some social needs as well. Now, over time, the productive forces that are available to us develop, and the level at which our productive development is at will determine our economy, and our economy will in turn determine what our legal and our political institutions are. Revolution happens when our economy is no longer able to develop the forces of production. That is, unless it's hindered by something, for example, like ideologies like religion or something like that. Now, capitalist societies are organized to exploit the labor of the working class. Simplifying this tremendously, we could say that everybody in the world we could put into two classes of people: the bourgeois, the people that have the means of production, and the working class, the proletariat. And capitalism is set up, it's organized so that the bourgeois are able to exploit the working class for their labor in order to gain profit. So for every class, or for every society, there is exchange of commodities. A commodity being a useful external object produced for exchange on a market. Capitalism, however, is unique in that it also invokes capital, in this case money, in order to exchange one commodity for a different commodity, and that different commodity gaining a higher price, in which case you can make a profit from it. So capitalism is unique in that way in trying to gain profit like that. The only way to do this, Marx believes, is by exploiting the workers' labor power. So this goes part and parcel with his labor theory of value, where he thinks that the value of a commodity depends on the amount of socially necessary labor time required to produce it. Now, there are two kinds of labor: necessary labor and surplus labor. Necessary labor is the amount of labor that a laborer needs to do in order to just survive, to produce the amount of products that laborer needs to survive for that day. Anything over and above that would be surplus labor. And Marx claims that surplus value is where all profit comes from. So if you're going to get any profit, it has to be from this surplus value. So capitalism is set up so that the only way that you could get this profit is for the working class to be exploited for that extra labor by the bourgeois. Now, some interesting points about this. That would lead to the conclusion that as production gets more mechanized, as we use more machines to do production, that we should lose value, that we should all of a sudden lose profit, because there's no more labor. So we can't have any more of this. Remember, this is labor theory of value. So all value is based on labor. As we start to lose that labor, as it becomes the arena of machines, we should start to lose profit. And that seems, of course, pretty absurd. Another issue with this view is that it would indicate that labor-intensive industries have a much higher rate of profit than non-labor-intensive industries, which is just false, empirically false. So how does Marx get around this? He says, in real-life economics, there is a disparity between value and prices, and the math to show like what this disparity is known as the transformation problem. And there is math around today that purports to show that you can do this. The only issue being that making it so complicated loses all of its intuitive appeal. So this labor theory of value was supposed to be very appealing because it was intuitive, and now all of a sudden we have to go from the intuitions to some arcane mathematical, structure, and then it no longer seems all that intuitive. A further problem, his claim that only labor can produce surplus value is totally unsubstantiated. He just sort of throws it out there. And for a lot of Marx fans, I apologize, but it's true that Marx doesn't really he just throws out a lot of statements, and there's not a whole lot of evidence, or the evidence is questionable, So here's one of those things that he just sort of throws out there. So for a lot of people, his labor theory of value is untenable. But does that mean that his view that capitalism is all about exploitation is faulty? Well, not necessarily. Of course, this is just a claim that's being thrown out there, but that's a claim that is possible still. If exploitation solely means that there's an unequal exchange of labor for goods, then the claim would just be that happens naturally in capitalism. So I'll leave that to you guys to determine if you think that actually happens in capitalism or not. But for Marx, it definitely happens. So the question is, why doesn't Marx call capitalism unjust? Well, first of all, Marx believed that the concept of justice was tied up to the concept of rights. And the concept of rights is tied up with the bourgeois idea of individuals as, units that were separate and independent rather than as an interdependent community. So he eschews that kind of talk. So that's one reason why we could say that he wants to avoid justice talk. Another reason, though, is that capitalism is, for Marx, a necessary step on the path to communism. He believes that, again, as time goes on, the productive forces are going to develop, and as the productive forces develop, these new economies develop, and the new economies drive the political institutions and everything. So he thinks that this is good for now, right? You need to have it now, but it's just a stepping stone onto the next thing. He believes socialism is a stepping stone. Socialism, however, operates as capitalism does on the principle of desert, which is something that we're going to talk about. The principle of desert is the idea that each person gets what they deserve, right? Like for whatever you put in, that's the amount that you should get out. But socialism, he believes, because it operates on the principle of desert, is not going to be part of the perfect society. The perfect society, he believes, is communism. And communism operates off the principle of need. So the principle of need is from each according to his ability, and to each according to his need. And this, if we could say, because he doesn't say communism is a just society or anything like this, but if he were using the term just, then we could say this is the most just theory that he could come up with, is that we should give each according to their need and take from each according to their ability. So in discussing distributive justice, we should distribute out things according to people have need. Now that's not shockingly mind-blowing because, we have social programs in even in modern capitalist societies that attempt to meet the needs of people. So the principle of need actually doesn't take us all that far. Because if you think about how much does somebody actually need? You don't need, for example, a roof over your head. I lived in Philadelphia, and sometimes it's freezing cold up there. So you do need a roof over your head for a short period of time when it's super cold. But in the summertime, and don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that people shouldn't be housed. I'm saying that, in order to survive, you need bread and water and oxygen, and that's all. That's all you need. But what about how much you need to live a healthy life? Well, that's a little bit more. You need more than just bread, and you need a place to sleep that's not outdoors. And then what about how much you need to live a respectable life, not just a healthy life? Well, you need to be able to shower and things like that. So if this is taken from principle of need to equality, from each according to his ability, to each according to making everyone equal, now it seems to be an extreme and untenable view. And that because, and a lot of people are not going to like this, and I'm sorry, but this is it's true. It's human nature. You can't, this is untenable, if everybody is going to get the same amount of stuff for doing however much work they can get away with, you're going to get some slackers, some people that are not going to do a lot of work. Other people are going to see that, and they're going to say, why am I working so hard? And they're not going to work as hard anymore, and then everything is going to fall apart. That's just true. That's just what happens, So if this goes to that principle, then this is just a disaster waiting to happen. Another drawback to this is it totally does away with the principle of reciprocity. Remember, so the principle of reciprocity is you get what you put in, and that seems to be pretty key to human beings. We think that part of what justice is getting what you deserve, getting out what you put in. And so it seems like demanding from each one according to his ability, but not giving back according to his output is something that never really gets addressed. And so it seems like at least an injustice to many people. So that's distributive justice on communism. What about corrective justice? Marx believes that there's not going to be really much need for corrective justice because we're all going to basically go along with the whatever the majority votes on, which to me seems incredibly naive. I'm sorry, I have a hard time taking it seriously. It just doesn't sound in any way like a serious theory. So, and I'm sure viewers are going to say that I misrepresented Marx or that I was not, I didn't explain it well enough. Or if that's the case, feel free to explain more in the comments, and I'd love to dialogue about it. But this at least seems to be what he actually claimed, and those things seem like I said, seem to me to be totally untenable. So that's what I think about Marx's justice theories. And let me know if you have any questions. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, share, and I'll see you in the next video. Adios.